Aotearoa, or Land of the Long White Cloud. New Zealand remained unsettled for many thousands of years. The first people to come here at the end of the 12th century were the ancestors of the Maori. 500 years later, New Zealand was sighted again, this time by Europeans. First Abel Tasman and later James Cook. Two discoveries, two migrations, two destinies. Separate ancestors who explored a faraway land and had to learn to live together. This dance is famous all over the world. It's the pride of the Maori, the legendary haka, performed by New Zealand's national rugby team, the All Blacks.
The haka was a traditional Maori war dance used by our ancestors back in their days. In the haka you'll see the bulging of the eyes with the intention of the person, and you'll see the protruding of the tongue. And mainly the haka was used to put our ancestors in the right state of mind before entering war.
Europeans began to colonize New Zealand in the 19th century, and for a long time took the Aboriginal people, the Maori, to represent primitive culture. Many stereotypes exist to this day, but Maori culture is far deeper and richer than meets the eye. Today we are going on an amazing journey to Cape Reinga, a sacred place to all Maori. Impassable forest, gleaming white beaches, mountains and rocks. Every day Daniel takes to the air in New Zealand, but again and again he's surprised by its beauty.
Do you remember your first flight flying above New Zealand on your own, and how was it?
I do remember it was down in Dunedin in the South Island, the first time I flew on my own. It's quite a nerve-wracking experience, but relatively rewarding. We had good instructors down there, so it felt relatively safe, but it's an amazing country to go flying around in.
Flying over Cape Reinga is prohibited, so the helicopter lands in the field and we can only go further by car.
I'm going to drive up to the Cape Reinga lighthouse, about 20 minutes, and we'll spend around about 3 hours up there.
Okay.
Welcome.
Kiritopo Henry is a school teacher. He studies Maori traditions and often becomes a guide to the world of the forefathers. Accompanied by him, we enter the sacred territory. The sights revealed take our breath away. Cape Reinga is the northernmost point of New Zealand. Here, close to the rocks, is where the waters of the Pacific Ocean and Tasman Sea meet. The Maori believe that it's from here that the souls of their forefathers begin their journeys to the beyond. They flow down the streams to a lonely tree on a cliff top. From there, they jump into the vast openness. This beautiful legend appeared long before there were Europeans in New Zealand, but the Maori paradise is open to everyone.
We have an ancient saying in our people, and this is common throughout all of Te Ao Māori, or us as New Zealand people, Māori people, and it's a proverb that goes like this: He aha te mea nui o te ao, mā kue ki atu he tangata, he tangata, he tangata. If you ask me what is the greatest thing in the world, I will tell you that it is people. It is people, it is people. So we believe that we are all the same. We are all one people that live under the sky. We are all one people that live on the land. It could be here in New Zealand, it could be in Russia, it could be in America, it could be in Europe, but we are all one people. And when we pass away, we believe that all of our spirits return to the spiritual homeland where all of our ancestors are.
If the souls go to the ocean, what happens to the body? In ancient times, the Maori practiced unusual burial rites.
We had a significant or special tree, a rako, we call it a rako, that our loved ones would be put up into a tree and tied into a tree. After time, the body would be brought back down, cleaned, and put into a sacred box, which would be carved with significant designs to represent family. And then they would be placed into a special cave and kept there with other family members who had passed away.
Cape Reinga is not the only sacred point on the Maori map. If for coastal dwelling tribes the main object of worship was the ocean, then for the tribes that went inland, it was the Waikato River. We're riding along the river Waikato. Once it was a large shipping lane, plied by paddle steamers transporting wool and wheat. There's our car. Here's the river, the Waikato River, and we're riding along. The Waikato is New Zealand's longest river. In ancient times, it was a thread that linked many Maori tribes. It provided food and was the source of life and eternal renewal. According to legend, there were once two mountains in New Zealand, Tongariro and Taupiri. One of them, Taupiri, set out on a long journey, but along the way became sick and sent a servant back to Tongariro. Beneath that mountain, which stayed where it was, a spring of life-giving water appeared, from which the servant filled a jug.
Taupiri drank from the calabash. She became healthy and vibrant, and she allowed the waters to flow past her out to the ocean. And so such is the spiritual essence of our waterways, Waikato. That's how we view our river, exactly the same. So when we get sick, we return to the river and we bless ourselves with the water. We say prayers, we ask for guidance, we ask for blessings, and we ask for strength.
In its middle reaches, the Waikato is quite calm and tranquil, but don't be deceived. The river's source is Lake Taupo, and at first it can barely make its way through the rocks. Here, in this stretch, the water flows rapidly through a narrow gorge and then tumbles into a deep abyss. Here, the river's true character can be seen in its thundering force. During the colonization of New Zealand by settlers from Europe, the Maori lost huge tracts of their land. The Waikato River was also taken from them. Several years ago, though, that historical justice was addressed, and the government returned the Waikato to Maori supervision. They have again become masters of their primary river of life. How did life on Earth first appear? Where did all the trees, birds, and animals come from? Who rules the elements? What is man's purpose? The Maori have found their own answers to many questions. Today we rose at 5 o'clock in the morning to be the first people on Earth to meet the new daylight. Napier is the easternmost city in New Zealand. It's here that each new day starts its run around our planet. I've seen the dawn from a river, but never from the ocean. It's wondrous. Every day the sun rises over the Earth, giving life to all matter. But it was not always so according to Maori mythology. The Maori have a legend that once a father and mother, the earth and sky, were together. Their children lived in total darkness, and the children decided to divide the parents. Tani Mahuta, the forest god, moved the earth and the sky apart. But when he separated them with the father sky at the top and the mother earth beneath, he saw that they were naked. He felt sorry for his father and mother, and gave to the mother fields and forests, and to the father a scarlet cloak with sparkles from the sea. For millions of years, Mother Earth was inhabited only by birds, animals, fish, and the elements, wind and rain. But one day, a man appeared here.
In the legends of our people, the ancient navigator known as Kupe journeyed from Hawaii, northeast Polynesia, and the legend of Kupe was that he was chasing a giant octopus. We call it a wheke. It was known as te wheke a Muturangi, the pet of Muturangi. So he chased this giant octopus all the way through the oceans, which actually brought him here. And the legend of Kupe, he followed the octopus all the way to Wellington, where he slayed the octopus in the Wellington harbour.
According to legend, that first man was Kupe, and he reached New Zealand. Kupe was the first to discover this land, and this is a statue in his honor. The Maori believed that this was in the 10th century AD. Scientists, however, believe that the settlement began a little later, in the 12th century. Other leaders came after Kupe, and all Maori are descended from them.
My lineage goes all the way back to as far as an ancestor by the name of Kupe. Now, Kupe was the first Polynesian ancestor to arrive on our shores and discovered Aotearoa as we know it, now known as New Zealand. So I can trace my linkage back to him.
Like all ancient peoples, the Maori deified nature. They believed that everything in the world, trees, stones, lakes, rivers, had a soul. One of the objects of worship was the giant kauri tree. They were reserved on the North Island, in a holy forest. They were the inspiration for the Tree of Life in James Cameron's famous film Avatar. Before entering the forest, you must clean your shoes. Centenarian trees are very sensitive to modern microbes. The path snakes through more usual trees, and curiosity grows. We're about to meet Tani Mahute, the god of the forest.
Greetings to you, our Lord of the Forest, Tani Mahuta. We have come to bring you visitors to sit below your branches, because you are the separator of Papatū, Nuku, Mother Earth, and Ranginui Sky Father. So therefore, greetings, greetings, greetings.
The sizes of this giant are amazing. 51 meters high, 13 meters around. Next to one, a man is barely a grain of sand. Kauri grow very slowly, and the tree is self-pollinating. Strobilus cones with seeds appear on the branches.
Once they get to their size, still on the tree, they explode. I've been in the forest when these cones have exploded. It sounds like a hailstorm. The seed is like a sycamore. It's got a little wing on it. As the section falls to the ground, the seed will depart, use its wing to helicopter to the ground, hopefully landing somewhere where it's moist and begin to grow. The life cycle of a kauri tree.
In one thick crown of kauri, a whole world can be found. Flowers grow and birds weave nests. For the Maori, this is no ordinary tree. This is a tree of the universe. Just as one seed becomes a kauri, so from 7 boats and 7 tribes, the Maori nation emerged.
If you were to germinate that seed 2,000 years ago, you'll have a lord of the forest. That's how old they believe he is, 2,000 years old. If that age is correct, you would have germinated from a little seed 2,000 years ago at the same time, at the birth of Jesus Christ. At 2,000 years old, you would have been standing long before our ancestor Kupe stood on our shores. But again, is not a ruin, a relic, a building, nor a pyramid, but a living entity, still providing us with that very important word, life.
Having paid tribute to Tane Mahute, Viramo takes us to another sacred tree, the father of the forest, Te Matua Ngahare. Even here in the sacred forest, there are not so many century kauris. That's why the issue of their preservation is very important to the Maori. Each tree is registered with a special chip sewn into it, and people take good care of their condition.
This is a Gondwana land, a subtropical rainforest. We have to look after these trees, this forest, the whole forest. All kauri forests, we look after them. We have to protect them because they have cut too many down. And the reason why they cut these trees down because they grew straight. They were taken all over the world for building spas and mast on ships.
In Maori cosmogony, the universe consists of 3 levels. The upper world, inhabited by good gods. The middle world belongs to the people. And the lower, where evil spirits reign, the Taniwha. The Maori avoided places where Taniwha might live. That's why it was only in the 20th century that the people learned of the miracles hidden in the depths of their land. An imperceptible entrance conceals within a huge and intricate underground world of lanes and galleries. These are the Waituma Caves, another New Zealand landmark. This is the most beautiful place in the cave. It's called the Organ. You can see here, stalactites and stalagmites have merged. It's so beautiful. It's only possible to get around the cave on foot. The path goes down to an underground river. Our guide is Hewitt Davis. He runs a guide service and comes down here several times a day. But his ancestors were afraid even to come close to the cave.
In traditional times, caves were seen as openings into the underworld and were associated with death. They were used for the interment of human remains, and they were considered tapu, as in taboo, forbidden.
No one ever knew of the cave's remarkable secret until, in the 19th century, migrants from Europe began to settle in New Zealand. In 1887, one of them decided to explore the caves. Together with a Maori guide, they descended into the depths and discovered something that now attracts thousands of people to the caverns of the Waitoma. The secret of the mysterious lights was solved long ago. The Waitoma caves act as a nursery for special worms that lay their larvae in the arches, and they are what sparkle in the darkness.
The light is a bioluminescence which occurs in the tail of the larvae. Any other insect flying through the cave, midge mayfly, is attracted to the light, but these insects can get caught in more sticky threads. The larvae hang long down around them.
There are threads hanging here, and they are the fireflies. 1,500 people a day pass through these caves, and we're the only group allowed to use a camera. These shots are a genuine exclusive. The early Maori feared the Waitoma caves, but now they take pride in it. For this particular Maori, that pride is twofold. The original guide who first showed the cave to a white man was one of his ancestors.
Kia ora. Haere rā.
The beauty of nature is not all that the Maori can show us. For many years, there has been a large ethnographic complex in the Waitangi Bay Islands, a place for guests to learn about Maori culture. This ritual is an obligatory part of the program. The protagonists scare the audience with warlike shouts before a frond is laid on the wooden floor. In ancient times, it acted a little like litmus paper. If the frond was raised, it meant friendship and peace. Otherwise, it signified war.
So follow us, ladies and gentlemen.
After the nerve-rattling ritual, guests go to the marae, or community house, and the main show begins.
We all are a part of the Ngāpuhi tribe. Very local sub-tribes around from this area. We all come from here. We are the national reigning champs. We won #1 awards throughout New Zealand. What I do here in Waitangi is sharing the world of my ancestors with passion. Also, I love my job. Don't look at it as a job. It is who I am and who my ancestors were. And I'm sharing it out with the rest of the world here today.
After the show, there's a photo opportunity, complete with the obligatory display of tongues.
Tongues out, 1, 2, 3, Pagana!
Contorted faces with protruding tongues are among the main elements of Maori culture. Now they do it for fun, but in ancient times people believed that the tongues scared their enemies, appearing both earthly and otherworldly.
The fear in the eyes, not being scared, being fearless, being like a shark, fighting to the end. That's almost like being defiant, being not so much a rebel, but being strong and being able to conquer your fears. So that's what poking your tongue out represents.
Traditional wood carving is another important element of Maori culture. Boats and houses, weapons and household items are all decorated that way. Everything created by ancient craftsmen is amazing and still surprises with its creative subtlety and ingenious subject matter, in which the whole history of the Maori is reflected, their gods and leaders, the natural world, and a vision of life. Modern craftsmen continue the traditions of the past.
So I'm making here what we call a wheku. It's a abstract representation of the human face, and you would often find these on the top of the meeting house, on the apex of a meeting house, and they usually represent an ancestor or a guardian overlooking the people, making sure everybody's doing their part.
Arama never studied wood carving. He once saw other people's work and knew he wanted to do the same. Arama first puts all of his ideas on paper and then cuts them into wood.
Our form is very much well and alive. It's getting stronger every day. Once upon a time, our culture, we almost lost everything. Our language, our art form, our way of life. 2018, our way of life, our culture, our art forms are getting stronger and stronger every year.
Modern craftsmen have a wide choice of tools, but the ancients worked with whatever was at hand, with what nature provided.
Our ancestors were using stone chisels. They were using greenstone, ponam, and they also used shell to scrape the timber. So they used a number of primitive tools that did exceptional jobs. And until the arrival of Captain Cook back in 1759, that's when we started using steel.
With Arama's permission, we try our hands at his craft too.
I'm doing it's correct?
You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Doing a good job, yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Traditional wood carving also has a place in modern architecture. Viramo Puke from Hamilton City helped decorate the local stadium.
And these carvings, as part of the sacred ritual of the players, they rub or they feel the carvings, so the good luck and the life force of the ancestors passes to each player as they go out onto the field to do battle with another team. It's the only stadium in New Zealand that does this.
This ritual board is for the players. Other parts of the work is for the fans to see. The stadium is decorated with huge carved gates. In ancient times, though, those gates led Maori men to war. They were like a symbolic promise to fight to the death and not to fail their families.
Heads the gateway, like the carvings in the players' tunnel, have exactly a similar function. One is for the spectators, the other one is for the players themselves. So when the crowds come into the stadium, they are defending and supporting their players, and for them to be inspired to fight.
New Zealanders are passionate sports fans. Here in Hamilton, we managed to visit the annual Maori Games. These teams are competing in the art of steering traditional waka boats. Teams come to these games from all over the country. The winners are honoured with the traditional, and how do we manage without it, Maori haka.
There we go. Each and every one of them have received their medals. You are now looking at the best.
It's a real national holiday. What we've seen, the way they dance the haka for the winners, is an amazing sight. We were tempted to get closer and dance with them.
I'm the aunt. Oh, he wants to go back.
When we came here,
We were keen to see how the Maori live today, and we got lucky. One of our friends, Brad Tatoreva, invited us to his place. Maori tend to have big families. Brad and his wife have 5 children.
Come here and see my daughter will place our food.
Oh, yeah.
Not dominate my
Yeah, I know what you mean.
decision in the family.
We both do. Yeah, but I like to say that I do, but we both do. We both discuss it. Yeah. Yeah, there's no. If anyone that's dominating will probably be our little 6-year-old.
Inequality has never been a feature of Maori families. National fairy tales always emphasize the woman's independence. She chooses her own husband, and if he offends her, she can pack up her things and leave. The women are not expected to care for the children alone. For example, Brad's wife works as a school teacher.
Do you like the job?
Yeah, I love it. Yes. Yep. I love it when I wake up. Yeah, I can't wait to go to
What
work.
about Maori women? Are they all work?
Yes, hard workers. I do that, and I also do a little bit of crafts. I like to weave, harakeke, flax, and korowai. Just learning how to make korowai now.
The korowai is a traditional Maori cloak. At its base are flaxen ropes, into which feathers are woven. It's painstaking work, but many women see it as a good opportunity to connect with their ancestors. The tattoo on Brad's face, the matauru, represents the same connection.
I received my mataora, my facial moko, for 2 reasons. One was to recognise and commemorate the 10 years reign of our current king, King Tuheitia. 10 years. The second one was to recognise the return of the Rangiriri battlefield to our people. And so every part of my mataora has a story to it. Every line has a story to it.
Facial tattoos are an important part of Maori culture. Family portraits made the artist Charles Goldie famous. He recorded dozens of tattoos in which family, clan, and all Maori people's history are encoded. Now the Maori make tattoos using modern equipment, but in ancient times the procedure was very painful and often cut through the subject's cheeks.
Back in the old days, some of the old men would have a smoke, puff out the smoke, and the smoke's coming out their cheeks. Because you cut open the skin first, they cut it open. Then you put the ink in.
Maori life is not limited to a family home. Each Maori village has a community house, the marae, where the Maori gather together with whole families to celebrate holidays and birthdays, sing, dance and talk, and of course discuss matters that affect the community.
1, 2, 3, go! This is my home. I have a lot of families, or I'm from other parts, other marae, but for this one in particular, to have all my family here, my friends and family in one place, learning about ourselves, about who we come, where we come from, who we are, and doing it here, where we stay here too. It's just, I was brought up here as well, so it's awesome.
It's not so easy to enter a marae from the side. Only locals can go there. After a vocal warm-up, the people are divided into groups, and the men sharpen their haka skills.
Haka is
I guess to us is a way to express our strength, to express our unity, and of course haka comes in all shapes and sizes, so to say, but for haka in general, the war dance, it is a way for the people that are doing the haka in particular to show their strength to the opponent or to the other people that are watching. So yeah, haka is a way of showing strength, that I believe.
While the men demonstrate their strength, the women are mastering a traditional Maori dance with po, small bulls and ropes. The elders are busy too. They sing traditional Maori songs with a guitarist.
As you may have realised, our identity in that was taken from us. So in order for us to retain that back, there's been a renaissance in our language and in our song. So when we do our haka and song together on a marae like this is just one part of the way of gaining back.
Great-grandmother, my grandmother, all performed. A long history of performing in my family, my mother, my aunties. So I'm following the same thing. My brothers and I, who are the tutors, my brother and I are the tutors of the group, and we're very passionate about it. It's a lifetime passion, and it's a legacy that we like to carry on and pass down to our children as well.
Nobody at this marae has prepared anything specially for our arrival. This is normal life. People have a genuine interest in their history and culture. Hundreds of centuries of songs, dances, folk tales and myths have been transferred from one generation to the next. That great background doesn't weigh the modern Maori down. They demand that it's kept alive. And that living connection with the ancestors is the main key to understanding Maori culture and the Maori people. For many centuries, the Maori were the sole owners of this land. But in the late 18th century, European sailors appeared and began a long process of colonization. The Maori had to struggle with the white invaders to defend their freedoms.